Hi, everyone. This is Joanne, and welcome to the Talks with Joe podcast. I have a special guest with me today, and I believe she's so knowledgeable on so many things. So, Annie, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Annie Emprima-Martin. I'm a metaphysician. So I study the philosophy, the bridge, if you will, between science and spirituality. And my goal, well, one of my goals, many goals, one of my goals is to bring more scientific reasoning behind spiritual beliefs. So how do we bring science to things that we thought were mystical or spiritual gifts or um, in some cases woo woo and witchcraft, and
Yeah.
bring that back to show that it's really part of the brain that's capable of doing these things.
Yeah, I think that's so amazing because when I started getting into this, I found out that a lot of the science stuff can explain it too. So, yeah, that's just so wild to me. And then yeah, so I specifically want to talk to you today about quantum healing and quantum deep work. I, for one, don't know anything about it. So can you tell us like what it is and why it's beneficial?
Oh, this is like my favorite topic. Because it's just such a world that we're not trained and taught about in this culture. And quantum work is when you step out of we're sort of stepping out of the ego,
Mhm.
and we're utilizing in the mind body spirit, mind body soul, uh, that trio, those three attributes that make the whole. So in certain religions it might be Father, Son, Holy Ghost, or the physical body, the mind, and the biofield. Well, this energy force has been ignored in our culture for so long, and yet it holds all the master data to who we are.
Mm.
So one of my gifts is that I can step into someone's biofield and see it. So as it's sort of like when you have um, a doctor taking a telescope into the body to figure out what's going on, or you get an MRI imaging, I can go in and see the whole grid that surrounds the body, the invisible parts, and see where there's like some wonky stuff, to go in and like, where are the viruses, where's some stuck energy, where's why is this here when this belongs from an event that occurred 50 years ago. And we can go in and we can clear it out of the body, because what we don't realize is when we start adding these invisible things up, they
Mhm.
carry their own weight. So
Yeah.
gaining a lot of weight from emotional issues, and the physical is the manifestation of the emotional.
Yes, yes. I have personal experience with that and everything, especially like learning about all my chakras. And I personally have like issues with my throat chakra not being able to speak. So there was this one time around like over a year ago when I was getting out of my breakup. Apparently, I was losing my voice towards the end of that breakup. Like literally, I could not speak. I was just coughing all the time and I literally lost my voice because I wasn't using it. So I know exactly what you mean. That's so crazy.
And so there's two different ways we can do it. We can do it two different ways. I do it. There's many ways to do it. Two different ways I do it is, one is the person is consciously aware and standing in front of me and I'm scanning, similar to how you might do a physical exam.
Hmm.
Um, or the other is in a somnambulistic state where we take the person into a hypnotic like state. It's still fully conscious, or still having conversation, but the person is so relaxed that we're bypassing the ego and the amygdala, and we're going under and we're speaking just to the soul.
Wow. So it's kind of like hypnotherapy where you're talking to the subconscious. Is that similar?
It's similar, but instead of talking to the subconscious mind, we're switching drivers completely. We're taking the mind out of the driver's seat of that vehicle, putting it in the passenger seat, and we're letting the spirit, the energy force, speak so exclusively on behalf
Mhm.
of everyone in the car.
Wow. Dang. So how did you get into this? Like, how did you like discover your gifts?
uh, I didn't pursue this. I didn't. I can very honestly tell you that if you had told me 5 years ago this was the lane I would be in, I would have told you you were mad and out of your mind. Why would I care about anatomy? Why would I care about neuroanatomy? Why would I care
Yeah.
spirituality? Like none of that was in my, that wasn't shining. That wasn't on my radar. That wasn't on the path I was on. And then I went on a deployment and it was a complete pivot to what I thought my life was about. And that whole deployment just pivoted because things started happening during the deployment that I couldn't explain.
Mm.
And when you have voices in your head and you're going in and out of Iraq, I was in and out of Iraq 3 times.
Oh.
You got to be full battle rattle. Like I've got my 240 rounds of ammo. I've got in my in civilian terms like the bulletproof vest, the bulletproof helmet, my M16, my rifle, and I'm hearing voices. So I knew I couldn't tell a mental health professional. I knew I couldn't tell a chaplain. I wasn't even sure really what was happening. I just knew that I was getting all this data coming at me and I didn't know what to do with it. So that was where it cracked open.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started seeing it get validated as time passed and I came back from my deployment. The layers started peeling back and the veil started getting thinner and I started having more and more gifts coming to me. And so I didn't choose this. I say it chose me, but
Yeah.
some greater level. That's not
Yeah,
accurate
because it like
either.
pretty much like came out of the blue, like came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And where I am now in just a very short period of time, because I'm on the lane I'm supposed to be on, everything is moving fast. Like the train is just going at it's
Mm-hmm.
bullet speed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, like I guess with my process, like sometimes we have to go through things, but for you, it kind of like came out of the blue. For me, like I had to go through something traumatic where I started listening to those voices a lot more because I do recognize those voices. And sometimes I'm just like, that is not my voice. I'm not that
Mhm.
eloquent, you know? Yeah.
Like,
So,
wow, that's profound.
yeah, I'm just like,
You know it's good when it's
wow.
really profound.
So like going back to like the deep quantum work, like I was looking on your website, there's like different types like QHHT, QHND, QE. Like what does it all mean?
So quantum healing hypnosis technique was created by Dolores Cannon, who has since passed away, but um, a huge foundation for the work I do. I read every book I can get of hers because she was one of the founding creators of this concept. So it was a gift that came to her. She was a hypnotherapist, and she
Mm.
started to find that people were recalling information that was outside of their timeline. And so, there's a lot of hypnotherapists that have this gift as well. Brian Weiss, um, a lot of hypnotherapists from the 70s and 80s were starting to see people that had things that were beyond this lifetime. And so quantum healing hypnosis technique is a specific technique to journey someone through that hypnotic state into the somnambulistic sleepwalking state so that the mind switches out of the driver's seat and the soul comes in and speaks. And the soul will
Mhm.
speak in terms of we. Like we want Annie to be healthier. It's the greatest, it's speaking on behalf of the greatest good for all of the attributes.
Yeah.
And then when we look at quantum empowerment, the QE program, that's something that I developed because my natural energy is a high vibration. And so QHHT, I have to relax my vibrational wave
Mhm.
to do QHHT, but QE, we go in, it's the similar road, but it has a different result. And that's where we can like really boost up someone's spiritual gifts. So if someone has the gift of intuition, when we do a QE session, it's cranking it up. It's opening up that window and letting all that energy really go at full speed, full throttle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, this is so interesting. So like going back to how you mentioned that there's periods beyond this, life, I guess, like for the soul specifically. So that can relate a lot to like past lives, right? Like where we've been before, and some healing that needs to be done in maybe in the past life that we brought onto this life.
Yeah, if we look at time as being linear, it would be a past life. So,
Mm-hmm.
so our culture would refer to it as past life. What it is another lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk in terms of, oh, we carried it forward from another lifetime, but really time is not linear at the quantum level. It's simultaneous.
Oh my God.
So if so, and this is going to get complex, and if we are able to exist in multiple places at multiple times, and we get shot in another place, another dimension per se, we might develop an injury where the other facet of us experienced it. It
Whoa,
doesn't belong to us, but when we come up the layers, we reunite to the whole. We're just an attribute of our whole.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, when we go through, we can clear out, like people have phantom leg pains that have or an absolute fear of being in ocean water with no story behind it.
Yeah.
Someone, I worked with someone who afraid of being underwater, and we go through the journey and we find that in another time, in another experience, they had been shot by their friends in a boat and fell over the water and drowned. So their fear of being in the water was recalling that physiological response
Oh my gosh.
to an event that didn't occur in this lifetime.
This is so wild. So like saying that time is not linear, so we can't need the term past life. It's just like, okay, yes, that exists, but that was a different lifetime. So if time doesn't exist, like time is not linear, that's mean our future selves, somewhere in the future, it exists in the
Now,
same plane as now.
yeah,
Whoa,
which
mind blown.
mind blowing, right? Mind blowing. But if you understand that, if you can understand that, that means that it's so much easier to go back and heal your inner child, and so much easier to go to your future self for mentorship.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So,
Like,
yeah.
think about how cool it would be if you could go to your future self and say, hey, what should I know right now? What should I learn about right now that would help us in this timeline? And then you'll find that information on topics you weren't seeking find their way to you.
So it's like meeting halfway with your future self. Like, how can I get to where you are?
And if you knew what you went through in the past, can you go back and help yourself?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Like say something happened. So like very much Back to the Future, right? Do you remember Back to the Future, the
Yes,
movie?
I love that movie.
Right. And you know how is it the end of the, I forget which one it is, where he comes back and Michael J. Fox's character thought that Doc was going to die because it was going to come back and they were going to shoot Doc in the
Yes,
parking lot.
yes, I remember
And
that.
he has the bulletproof vest.
Yes.
So the he altered the future and the past at the same time.
Oh my gosh. I'm like getting goosebumps
Goosebumps,
right now.
right?
It's
Right.
it's so wild. Yeah, so like if us now, if we know that the past and the future exist on the same plane, we could pretty much manifest what we want. Like it's easier for us to get there. Or
Way
I'm
easier.
yeah.
Way easier. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is probably like mind blowing to a lot of people because it's just like to me right now. So so what kind of types of healing, quantum healing practices could people do on themselves? Let's say it's easier for us to manifest now. So what, like let's say, for example, in the future, I want to start a business and make a lot of money. And I'm nowhere near that right now. How can I take the steps to get there?
The first step, this is the first step of anything, is you can't manifest if you yourself are not in your own body in the present moment.
Mm.
If you're stuck always thinking about the future or always stuck in the past, it's like if you need to be firmly balanced on, let's say like a teeter-totter of sorts, right? If you're leaning this way, you're not balanced. If you're leaning this way, you're not balanced. You got to be balanced before you make that manifestation wish. You have to be in the present moment,
Yes.
grounded. If you're not grounded, no matter how many times you say a mantra, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You have to be firmly in your body. Mind, body, spirit have to be like, yep, we're all here. We're all sitting at the table. What would you like?
Yeah. So pretty much getting in alignment with all parts of yourself.
All parts of yourself, especially the ego, because the ego will either anchor forward or anchor back. And if the ego is not at the table when the other attributes are trying to have a team meeting,
Yeah.
right? There's no quorum. You gotta have everything. Everyone has to have occupation at the table to make that vote.
Yes. And sometimes the ego, they always have fear or anxiety. They're like, oh no, I could sit this one out today. I don't need to be there. Like, no.
No, everyone,
You have to
yep,
be
all
here.
attributes. It's an attribute meeting.
Yeah. Okay. And then be like, okay, what do you want? What do we want? What is beneficial for all of us to get to that one goal that truly, will be beneficial for all of us and makes us leading our purpose, I guess.
And making sure that what we want is really what we want, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how many times, and I went through this myself, where how many people wish they're struggling with money, struggling, and they wish for $1 million. But there's a part of them that's afraid of $1 million. So they're wishing for $1 million and they're afraid of it at the same time, and it keeps canceling.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the real reason for wishing for $1 million? Oh, safety and security. Well, then we wish for safety and security.
Mm.
The money is not, go back to the emotion. What is the emotion?
Yeah.
The emotion will lead you to happiness, life purpose. That'll bring you the money. But if you just wish for the money, then you're going to take fear with it.
Yeah. And then I know there's a lot of people who've had like trauma regarding money, maybe growing up, like their parents telling them that, oh, there's never enough. Like, oh, this is not enough. We have to save it. We have to save it. We cannot spend it. So like the idea around money, like already like ingrained in us growing up is just something so negative when it could be something so beneficial. And, money is energy too.
Money wants an intention.
Yeah.
And how many people grew up where I grew up this way, where my grandparents would always, my grandmother would say things like, oh, those big corporations, they're greedy. They just want the money, right? So now we've created this separation between where we are and the greedy rich people. Not,
Mm-hmm.
wow, if I were really wealthy, I would have more philanthropic efforts to support the world.
Yeah.
The language changes. And then when that language changes, the intention changes. And now we don't have a fear of being successful or wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Um, me think of other questions because I know there's like a lot around quantum work, and especially what you explained earlier. I got so excited about it.
The biofield, working in the biofield is my favorite thing. It is by far my favorite thing because it's, people ask me frequently, well, what will I come out of it? What will I get if we do
Hmm.
this? And I can't guarantee that result. What I can guarantee is we're going to open up this box and we're going to start looking through it and figuring out what you have.
Hmm.
That's the first step is, okay, what are the spiritual gifts? What are the blocks? What are the things that are getting in the way? Well, where are the kinks in the lines? Let's open up this gift, expand it out, see what's in it, and then we'll build something with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we move things out of the way that never belonged in the first place, especially other people's guilt that we absorb, we start moving that out. Well, now that makes so much room in our biofield to fill it with other things that we want to. So when I'm working with clients and we're doing that, it's co-creating what people want for an outcome, and we're coding that into the biofield.
Oh, wow.
It is so wild to
I
watch
know.
people like, um,
And then I remember the first time we met, like we talked a lot about like the body and how the body feels in terms of like the way you speak to it. So like when you say I think versus let's say I am, it's a whole different shift through your body. So I've been trying to teach myself a lot about what I say to myself because it's a completely different shift in how it feels in my body. And I do recognize that. I'm more aware. So can you kind of explain that to a little bit more to our audience?
Um, One of the first lessons when I'm doing linguistic training is that the universe doesn't understand don't. I don't ever want to be poor. I don't want to be in debt. So don't doesn't have a value. When we remove don't out of that statement, what do we have? I want to be poor. I want to be in debt.
Yeah.
So that's what we get, is this repeated cycle, because don't has no value.
Wow.
So we'll do like an imagery, a visual thing. Imagine you're a little kid, you're like 5 years old, and you were curious and you climbed a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and you're so excited and so proud of yourself that you climbed this big tree by yourself, and you're kind of halfway in this tree, and the wind starts coming. So you're swaying and you're not sure if you should be scared or if this is fun. And you're looking around and you've got both of your parents on the ground watching. And one parent says, don't fall, don't fall. And the other one says, hold on tight. Do you feel how your body responds differently from don't fall to hold on tight?
Yeah, don't fall. That sounds that's a fear-based statement. So automatically I would be scared from that tree versus hold on. That makes me feel a sense of safety. Like, okay, I'm going to be safe if I hold on.
And remember, the universe doesn't understand the word don't. So we have to think of that action before we can unthink that action.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fall is going to raise the probability that we do fall.
Yeah.
Versus hold on tight. And so when we change that language, we change the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And then one of the affirmations I've been telling myself a lot lately, because you know how people tend to say, like, when something goes wrong, oh, nothing ever works out for me. Or like, and then I was shifted to say, oh, everything works out for me. So there's like an automatic like uplift there. Like, okay, that energy just shifted immediately, like just by me just changing that statement, you know?
If we change to statements of curiosity, like what can I learn from this? Or where are we going with this?
Mm-hmm.
There's there's more positive energy, and that's the same as hold on tight. Like go in with curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and ride it versus being afraid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. But I know there's like a lot of for it's hard for a lot of people because so many people are scared of the unknown or the uncertainty, and then just that just causes a lot of fear. So do you have any advice for people who are like maybe, are scared of the future or scared of like the uncertainty? Like how can they align all the parts of themselves to really manifest what they want?
What popped in my head is more of how many things that we're afraid of, how many of those things really exist?
Mhm. That's a good
Or
question.
how many of those things have we created in our head, right? The
Mhm.
reality comes from headquarters. And so if headquarters doesn't even use the language, then there's a much greater chance that that outcome won't happen.
Mhm.
So like an example would be, if you believe that there's good and evil, then that means that every opportunity you have is putting something in a box of either good or evil.
Mhm.
But if you remove the boxes and you just say, okay, where on the spectrum are we? Is this person high up on the spectrum? There's a spectrum, and everyone's somewhere on the spectrum. Okay,
Yeah.
they're kind of still learning this lesson, but they're advanced over here, right? Now we're humanizing things, and we're giving people opportunities to have strengths and weaknesses at the same time, rather than having to fit in a good or bad box.
Mhm.
And and those little tweaks change how we also see our own learning path. Oh, did I really screw that up? I can't believe I screwed that up. To, okay, what else can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How do I do this differently? There's more curiosity in it. So it's now you're no longer I suck versus I'm great. It's okay, I'm somewhere on the spectrum, and somehow I ended up down here.
Mhm.
What can I learn from this, and how can I leapfrog back up to where I want to go?
Yeah, that's great. This kind of reminded me of like this math statement I heard on another podcast. It's just like, let's say you're really bad at math and then you're like failing every math test. Like instead of saying, oh, I'm so bad at math, I'm never going to be good at math, you can say, I'm getting better at math. So
Yeah.
like, that already shifts the statement. You don't have to say like you're great and amazing at it. You could say, I'm getting better. So that already is progress and that already is growth.
Yeah. And how we see math. So I see numbers, and you would think, okay, what does math have to do with metaphysics?
Mm-hmm.
But math is metaphysics, right? Quantum physics. And so if we just change how we're looking at that very same thing, just turning it and looking at it differently, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
So if you're really bad at math, let's apply it to something you really love. And now we've attached math to a love statement.
Yeah.
And that changes our curiosity for learning it.
Yeah. And then when you say that you're getting better, you're more willing to like put in the work versus like, let's say, I'm not good at math. I'm never going to be good at math. You just give up and
Yeah.
that's it. Of course, you're never going to get better. You're never going to be great because you just gave up. You told yourself that story. Your ego is telling you that you're never going to be good at it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Words have power. Thoughts have
Mhm.
power. Words have power, and the connections we make with those words and thoughts have power.
Yeah. And then like strongest thing is like when you become aware of like the words you're saying and the words you're saying to yourself. It becomes very powerful when you learn how to shift it. And that is something that I'm definitely learning this year to like shift my wording around where I speak in something that's more beneficial, more progressive, and more confident, like overall.
Yeah, pull back our power. We
Hmm.
think we in this culture, there's so many things that tell us to seek third party validation,
Hmm.
like cosmetic companies and pharmaceuticals and all these things that are saying you don't know how to make a good decision. Let us make it for you. And we give away our power. When we start pulling back that power, and when that happens, we start activating our internal generator, like our energy generator,
Hmm.
and we're operating more because we've got more of our energy back at headquarters. It's
Yeah.
not floated out to all these external sources. We bring it back in. We have such it creates such a difference in how we make smarter decisions.
Yeah. And I love how you say headquarters. I never thought about it like that. Like, yes,
Uh,
headquarters, me. Come back to me. Come home to me.
yeah.
Always first and go within and then see how you could show up. Like not looking for validation externally, but see validation in yourself and then show up to the world and how you can benefit everyone else.
Yeah. When we study money, so when I look at billionaires that didn't give away their money, or they gave small pieces and then they waited until they had a sufficient amount of money so that could have a greater impact globally,
Hmm.
right? We look at like Warren Buffett and Bill and Melinda Gates and some
Hmm.
of the multi-billionaires that we have in our culture, our community. When they waited till they had enough, they amassed a large enough fortune, they made a greater impact.
Yeah.
We, our energy too is reserve our energy, pull it all back, strengthen it, and then we have more to give. We're not
Mhm.
working from a depleted space.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. I always say that you have to fill up your cup first before you can fill up others.
And that's energetically, that goes back to being a math problem. Like you cannot give if you have nothing to give.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up here. So like how can people find you and work with you and then what do you offer?
My website is One.Emprima. All of my social media is at one.Emprima. Start with the biofield program. The program is designed to be a training program I do all the work on the first session. The second session, it's 50-50, where I'm showing people how to use their own energy. And on the third session, they are running the show. They're doing all the scanning, and I'm like a sports coach on the sidelines, critiquing and assisting, but they're doing all the work.
Mm.
That is by far the most impactful program I have for people moving forward in life,
Oh,
is the
wow.
biofield training program.
So like through this program, I was just curious about it too.
Yeah.
So like so when you say like sports coaching on the side, so like they're pretty much like out there doing their own thing in their own life, or like what does the session like consist of?
Well, the first session, I open up the biofield. I'm doing all the scanning. I'm doing all the work, and they're standing consciously aware, a couple feet from me,
Mm-hmm.
aware, and they're feeling the energy moving through their body, and they can feel all the shifts happening, but they don't have the tools yet to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
On the second session, I'm showing, so it's a slower process, showing them how to do it. So the first one, I give them a fish. The second one, we're fishing together, and on the third, they're fishing, and I'm showing them how to fish better.
Ah.
Because I want people to have, if they can take this program, this system, and use it forward facing in their life, they're impacting themselves and everyone around them. And look how that ripple effect raises the
Yeah.
vibration of communities.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, learned a lot today about quantum because this is something I've always been curious about. So I am so grateful for you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Such an honor to be here. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yes, of course. I'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.